So HBO is taking us back to Westeros. But this isn't the story you might be expecting. I mean, forget the epic wars for the Iron Throne for a second. We're here to break down the new series, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and really dig into what makes it such a different and refreshing kind of adventure in the world of Game of Thrones.
Right, so when you hear new Game of Thrones show, I bet your mind goes straight to epic battles, scheming lords, and, of course, a bloody fight for the throne. And who can blame you? That's been the franchise's signature move for over a decade.
Well, this time, you can pretty much just toss those expectations right out the window. Seriously, this series is playing a completely different game. And if you want to understand just how different the tone is, look no further than the opening scene. As critic Liz Shannon Miller from Consequence points out, the series kicks off with, well, a poop joke. It's this immediate, unmistakable signal that we are not in for the grim, high-stakes drama we're so used to. Okay, so if this story isn't about kings and queens, then who are our heroes, right? Well, the entire series basically rests on the shoulders of this one super unlikely duo, a wandering knight and the scrappy kid who really, really wants to be his squire. And believe me, these two could not be more different. On one hand, you've got Ser Duncan, or Dunk. He's this massive, kind-hearted knight who's, let's say he's a little clumsy and definitely not winning any public speaking awards. And his counterpart is Egg, this sharp-tongued, bald kid who is way, way more clever than he lets on. It's this classic odd couple chemistry that has critics absolutely raving. Their first meeting really says it all. You've got Dunk having this very solemn moment, burying his mentor in the rain, when this kid, Egg, just walks up and starts making fun of his rope belt. Can you imagine? Dunk threatens him with a clout in the ear, but you can tell there's no real heat behind it. He says no at first, but by the end of the premiere, fate and a perfectly timed shooting star have brought them together for good. So that brings us to the vibe of the whole show. Let's dig into how this builds a totally different feel for Westeros, because we're trading that massive scope of warring kingdoms for something that feels way more like a personal journey, almost like a road trip. First off, to really get Dunk's place in this world, you have to know what a Hedge Knight is. And honestly, the show itself gives us the best and funniest definition you're gonna hear. Like a knight, but sadder. They're basically freelance knights, just roaming the countryside looking for a job. This immediately grounds the story in the world of the common folk, not the high and mighty lord. I absolutely love this take from The Hollywood Reporter. Comparing it to a Richard Linklater film, the director of movies like Before Sunrise or Dazed and Confused, is just the perfect analogy. It's not all about the epic plot, it's about characters walking, talking, and just living in this world. It's a character study, just set in Westeros. I mean, the contrast is it's stark. Think about it. Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, those were these massive, morally complex sagas about people and power. This new series, though, is being talked about in completely different terms. A samurai epic, a medieval morality play, even a classic Western. The focus is tight, it's personal, and it's driven by character, not by conquest. Maybe the best comparison actually comes from a totally different universe. Think about what The Mandalorian did for Star Wars. Remember how that show took this massive galaxy and just zeroed in on this small, intimate story about a protector and a child? That's exactly the role A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is playing for Westeros. It's that bite-sized adventure. Okay, so the tone and scale are different, we get that. But the real question is it actually good? All right, let's dive into what the first wave of critics are actually saying about the series. So the consensus is actually pretty clear. On the plus side, critics are universally praising the exquisite brotherly chemistry between the two leads. They're calling the show charming, funny, and a really faithful adaptation of the books. Now, on the flip side, the main criticisms seem to center on the narrative feeling a little thin, maybe spread out too much for a full series. Some found the pacing of it slow, and a few pointed out that the side characters, especially the women, could be more developed. And yeah, that potty humor we mentioned didn't quite land for everyone. Okay, so with all that in mind, the big question is, should you take this next trip to Westeros? Let's try and break down who this show is really going to click with.
Look, it really just boils down to this. If you're the kind of person who loves a charming, character-focused buddy adventure, and you're curious to see a more grounded, everyday view of Westeros, you are probably going to love this show. But hey, if you're someone who needs the epic scale, the huge battles, the dense political maneuvering, the dragons, you might find this new series just a little too quiet for your tastes.
And all of this really leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? I mean, you see it in Star Wars with shows like Andor and The Mandalorian, and now we're seeing it here in Westeros. Are these smaller, more intimate, character-driven stories the key to keeping these massive fictional universes feeling fresh and exciting? It's definitely something to think about.